Sorry guys, one more thing I forgot to mention. Damn, I always forgot to mention something. See that in one end here, one side, there's a little tang, a little dent there. Not a dent, a little slot. Slot, that's the word. Right there, you see? And it's not on the other side. And if you look at the bottom of it, of the connecting rod cap, bearing cap, there's a little ball here on one side and no ball on the other, right there, right on my thumb, right there. So. Just fucking zoom in, you piece of shit. See, as you see it now, it's on the right side. I believe, but in my case, there's a specific side to this, so even though it looks the same, you can't just put it whichever way. There's a certain way you got to put it. In this case, in my case, I believe this little ball has to go towards the front of the engine, or in other words, the little slot here has to be on the left side of the engine if you're looking at the engine from the front of the car. So if you just open the hood of the car and just look at the engine, then this should be on the left side in my case, right? This may or may not be the same for you. And another thing I'd like to mention is that this is cast iron, guys. Right? So even though there's a few scratches, they're just minor. Right? If this was modern car, this would be cast aluminum, and this thing would have been either broken or completely worn out. Just watch some other videos of guys on YouTube. Those things they just completely disintegrate. And as you can see, that's why I love these cars, man. It literally take me 1 hour maybe at most to remove the oil pan. And I will have to put a new gasket in. And there's just a lot of little details with these old cars, because they've probably been sitting outside for a long time. People don't. If you bought them like me, like for cheap, or in need of some work, then a lot of these details you'll have to figure out for yourself or pay somebody to do it. But anyways, I don't even mention modern cars. They're just pieces of shit that move on wheels. Once again, the workmanship on these old cars, not old, classic cars, it's just unbelievable, right? Like I said, aluminum, it just completely disintegrates. And I mean, changing a head, when you have to move this, don't forget there's still the other top part of the connecting rod. It's just the same as this, but there's a connecting rod here on the top here. There's a piston, and the only way to remove it without removing the crankshaft, not the crankshaft, the camshaft. Well, the crankshaft, yeah, is you have to remove the top of the engine, the head valve, and therefore then we will go through the bottom of the car and use a rod to push the piston out. I'll show you later in the next video on this subject here. But okay, so it might be easy for you to remove, if you have a modern car, it might be fairly easy to remove the oil pan, but changing a head gasket, it's literally, for most of the cars, literally thousands of dollars and a long time. Right? On these classic cars, especially the L-head engines, which are also called flatheads or inline, it literally takes like 15 minutes to remove it, right? So in total, you're looking at, let's just say you're new to this and you're afraid, you're looking at no more than 3 hours, okay, guys? 3 hours is a really long time for this project here. But if it's a modern car, it's just a fucking disaster. You might be better off buying a new car. Literally, you might just have to buy a new car. There's so much shit, so much pipes, so many pipes, wires, fucking this, fucking that, fucking sensors. Everything's in the fucking way like a big fucking mess. And so that adds up, right? But here, you know, it's just a little job. Even the engine, you know, just, you know, the original manual, the manuals for these cars actually showed you how to change pistons, and how to install them. Literally every single thing, every little detail on the car. Modern manuals now, they show you, literally just show you how to change, like to fill up your tires. Fucking worthless piece of shit. They shouldn't even be called manuals. But just to show you once again how easy and simple and fast and practical these engines, these cars are, guys. Right, my little experiment with the really thick oil probably contributed to these problems here. So I'm feeling a little bit bad now, but it's going to be a quick fix and very cheap. But even so, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass, especially because I missed the night with the girl. So that's really bad. Hopefully she's up for it again. But anyways, moving on. Another thing I'd like to mention is, I was going to mention the thick oil. Yeah, don't do that. And I took it to the highway with the thick oil, to the freeway, highway, whatever. So that certainly didn't help. But I mean, this car is at least 100,000 kilometers on it, or about 70,000 miles. So it was probably time to change these bearings anyways. Especially probably the people that had it before didn't treat it really nice. But I'm going to take good care of it. And like I said, guys, this is probably the only, the biggest project that you'll have on this car is doing something like this. Everything else, this is probably, like I said, this is the most complicated thing you'll ever have to do in these cars. Maybe changing piston rings might be a little, probably changing piston rings, but this is pretty much the same task, same procedure. I could do that, but the piston rings on it are still pretty good. How can you tell? Because it's usually really thin oil. Remember, I had to dilute to 5W20 oil to get it to stop burning oil. And once again, burning oil could be two completely opposite things. Could be that you're using too thick oil, or really just too thin oil. Right? So if you're burning oil, in other words, it could be that the piston rings are worn and old. Right? There's just a big gap, or it could be that they're just too new. Right? From another perspective, that the oil is too thick for the specific oil ring. But I'd like to say that it's probably better. It's actually always better to use thinner oil. If you're not sure, it's better to go with the thinner oil than the thicker oil, because the thinner oil will lubricate better than the thicker oil. Right? Because it's able to go into those crevices more, at least in these cars. I probably take back what I said. In these cases, I'll stand, but it may not be the same in all cases. If you have too thin oil, then you don't have enough protection. There's too much friction there. So, it's a bit of a two-way logic. Shit. Sorry, guys. I have oil on the camera. Jesus. But so just keep that in mind once again, and I'll get that cleaned later. Jesus. Sorry, I guess I'm talking too much here. But clean that up. I'm going to clean that up. new bearings. And I was actually reading, I might as well mention this, I was actually reading, if you're able to cast, you're actually able to make these bearings yourselves, but it's just not worth it. Like I said, I can buy them from Rock Auto for a really good price, and you probably can too. But I know some people might give me shit because I put too thick oil in the car and it might have caused this problem. But I'm a scientist above all, and in other words, I'm an experimenter. And this was the first car I had, so I mean the experience that I have now is just so much more than what I had at the time. So I mean, people make mistakes, but this wasn't a mistake. This was a test, and for what it's worth, I do it again. That's the best way to trust somebody. A person actually done something for an actual experiment, right? A lot of people can talk loud and say this or say that, but when you actually know firsthand from somebody that's actually done something, that's the only completely and 100% reliable way, right? So I'm telling you now, at the time I didn't even know. I was really confused about the oils, like I said, because is it burning oil because there's too much gap between the bore of the cylinder and the piston. In other words, are the piston rings worn, or are they just brand new, right? Or are they just too big, right? So that's just something I learned here directly. But like I said, all the other bearings, they're still really firm and nice. So, this one's probably going anyways. But I will change the other ones since I'm at it. But that's remember, guys, that's the real way and the 100% method to learn something is to actually do it, to experiment. If this was a modern car, the engine would have been done by now. But that's my little experiment there. Jesus, I've talked too much. Gotta end this. Another thing I might as well mention. There's a gasket that goes on the oil pan, right? And the original one was made of cork. Now that was probably hard to find now. I've actually seen sheets of it at a place, I think Home Depot. I don't know. But you can actually buy like a liquid, actually like a silicone gasket for this, which might be better. I've used the blue gasket for the blue RTV gasket for the head, the cylinder head. It's worked fine for now. Until now, no problems at all. It looks pretty solid. But for this here, it's got to be a special gasket that resists the oil, right? You'll have to clean the old gasket out and make sure the metal, the steel is nice and dry and full of dirt and shit, right? Otherwise, you will get a leak there. But this is gonna be fun, and this is certainly the last thing I'll have to do in this car. For sure. Everything else I checked. Everything else is great. There's literally nothing else that can happen to it. But yeah, another thing I'd like to say here is that on this car, you can't. The manual says to not jack the car up through the oil pan, because as you can see, it's just sheet metal. It's not really thick, unfortunately. Like I said, guys, if it was me, I would have probably made it out of stainless steel, at least the outside, and it would have been really thick. But I guess I can't expect people to have the same standards as me. But so what I might do is I might actually weld some pieces of metal, some pieces of steel there, really thick steel, like 1/4 inch steel, just to reinforce it so that I'm able to actually jack it up through there. I actually jacked it up through there, but I put a long piece of wood so that it would distribute the force evenly, right? Because if you put a jack, especially if it's a cylindrical one, like the upright ones, vertical jacks, like that one there, all the force goes to one point, so it's basically like a needle, right? But if you put a piece of wood, a really thick piece of wood, then that force distributes evenly, and that will not. Then you'll probably still be able to lift it through the pan. But modern cars have like aluminum pans or antimony pans. Pardon me. And those things will crack. Right, steel here, sheet steel, it won't crack. It'll only like warp. And actually, I didn't know about that, and I guess I was in a hurry, and I've seen that the oil pan there it's got a slight warp to it already. That's no big deal, except that oil stays. It depends depending on where the fuck up is, where the warp is. The oil will actually puddle in there, right? And so you have what we have there. The old oil just starts puddling in there and becomes grease, and all the dirt and shit doesn't go out with the oil change, right? So, and that's not good. So I'm at least very tempted to just weld reinforcements there. At least so it's stronger, and just make sure there's no warping at all. I probably have to unwarp what was warped there before as well. But just once again, this is just a great car. Shit, I'm talking too much. Anything else? I'm just trying to make sure I mentioned everything. I mean, it's better to talk too much than talk too little, right? And then you do something wrong, something stupid. Should I say something else? So you can actually see they actually have some little reinforcements there, but that's good for shit, man. Really good cars, these classic cars, but still they're not to my standards, because I have just off the charts, off the sky, off the planet standards, right? I've never even so, these cars are pretty close, pretty good to my standards, but still, this is an example of where I would have done it better. Right, nice stainless steel. At least a cover, like outside. It doesn't have to be solid stainless steel, because that's expensive. But I mean, at least really thick steel, and then like a 20 gauge sheet metal of stainless steel outside. Right, that would have been great. But damn, I guess not, eh? Anything else I should mention? I guess we're good for now, guys. So yeah, thanks for watching once again. Bye bye.